All right, good morning. We are going to get started. Welcome to the second annual Unity Summit presented by Student Council. This was an idea that was created last year with the hope that we could give students here at Amityville High School a voice. And not just for here in the high school, but a voice in the community you live in, the country that you live in. And it's about time that young people know that their voices matter and that their voices are heard. So today, you are sitting here because you are considered the leaders of this school. We have a mix of club presidents, vice presidents, treasurers, secretaries. We have sports captains, co-captains, and people who have been nominated by their teachers to serve on this panel because of the leadership that they have shown in the classroom. You are here because you are the representative voice of the student body. So for the 25 of you or so that are here, you're representing 1,000 people right now, and your voices matter, and what you do here today counts. So what are we doing here today? We are going to be talking, or you're going to be talking, about the questions you have about this school year, next school year, moving forward, the suggestions that you have about how to make your school a better experience for you, the concerns that you may have across a wide variety of issues that are coming directly from the student body. And in front of us here today, we have a panel of administrators, teachers, support staff who are here to listen to what it is that you have to say and to engage in an open dialogue with you. One of the things that's really important to understand, change takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's not easy. This is one conversation here today, but it doesn't end here today. What you believe is right for this school, for you guys, this is an ongoing dialogue. And it takes a lot of people to work together to bring change. And guess what? This experience is how you change your communities, it's how you change your country, it's how you change the world. So you should all be commended for coming out here and serving today as part of this. This is not meant for you to come up, ask a question, sit down, and that's it. It's meant for you to engage in a dialogue with everybody that's up here who brings different perspectives from all across the spectrum of this school building and this school district. One of the things I'm going to ask, be respectful. We are all here for the same reason. We want to create the best experience possible for you, the students. So be respectful, ask your questions, bring up your suggestions, and remember, we are here to help, we are here to work together, and that is what is most important. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our principal, Mr. Playa, who has a few words before we begin.
Thank you, Mr. Grice. And I'm not going to say much. I think Mr. Grice said it all. I've known just about everyone here since you guys were 7th graders, and I've seen you grow into the incredible people that you are today, and I'm so incredibly proud of you. And again, the purpose of today is voice, right? To hear what you have to say, to listen to the positive, the negative, and everything in between, and to take note and do our best to implement change. My guiding principle as a building principal, as an educator, is to always just do what's best for kids. And at the end of the day, I literally do this. At the end of the day, I say to myself, did I do what's best for kids today? And most days, the answer is a resounding yes. Some days, it's a resounding no, and I regret whatever decisions that I made. But I try to do better the next day. So the purpose of this is to hear what you have to say to make the school a better place. Because we are here, everybody on this panel, we are here for you. We are here to serve you. And if we're doing something wrong or we can improve on something, we want to know what it is, and we want to do our best to make it better. So thanks for showing up. Thanks for being a part of the process and being a part of the solution. And we are looking forward to your questions. Thank you.
Okay, so why don't we begin with this table? We'll move down the tables. We'll go to the people online who would like to ask the first question. And for everybody, when you ask your question, just say your name, and so that we know who you are, and then go ahead.
If you want to come up, Nylasia, you could come up.
No, I was just saying, like, do I ask you the question?
Or you got to speak into the mic.
Yeah. Do I, like, I could talk about a subject or I have to like ask a question.
Whatever you want.
Okay, I was just basically saying like to talk about like to make the school better or whatever, like we should like have like a mental health program like for students. Like today I had just learned in class about this thing called peer counseling, and we should have like that for the school to like make students feel like comfortable, because there is a lot of students that go through depression and anxiety and all these other different problems at home and mentally and stuff, and they don't really have anybody to talk to or anyone to like really listen to them or somebody that's going to be there for them. I'm just saying we should have some peer counseling or something if you know want to take it to.
Thank you, Nylasia. You made a really, really great point, especially of the last circumstances, the last 2 years with COVID. You know, we know that, you know, students, adults have issues to begin with, right? All of us. Many of us have baggage that we need to address. But with COVID, it's certainly exacerbated the problem. We do have mental health people on staff, Mr. Marrero, Ms. Rankin. We have our guidance department, and we hope that students feel comfortable enough reaching out to any of those areas. In terms of like a peer counseling program, that takes training to train students, but it's certainly something that we can look into, and if we had enough interest where students would be interested in doing something like that, we begin the training, you know, as early as this summer to move into next year. I could have, you know, Mr. Marrero could speak on the subject in terms of mental health because he's always available.
That's an excellent point, Nylasia. And obviously mental health has been something that has been on everybody's minds this year. You know, and a lot of people, some of you that are here have reached out, which is great. And peer counseling is a big component. This year with COVID, obviously we were limited with the things that we could do as far as groups, but those are definitely something that we're looking forward to doing in the 21, we're in 21, right? 21-22 school year is to try to have some more peer groups to provide support for people, to be able to, you know, give you guys an avenue to kind of express yourselves. So, but you know, also like our doors are always open. You know, the support staff, myself, Miss Rankin, guidance. You know, we're all available if you guys need. You just have to reach out.
Yeah, and again, the doors are always open, and we hope that you're comfortable going into those doors. Again, we've got 4 guidance counselors in the building, social worker, and a school psychologist. Anybody else?
My name is Melissa Contreras, and my question is, will we have more gender inclusive and gender neutral bathrooms? Because under the civil rights law, we're supposed to have more gender neutral bathrooms. And my suggestion is that we can convert one of the staff member bathrooms into a more gender neutral one.
Great question. Right now, the nurse's office we're using as a gender neutral bathroom. And then there's one of the bathrooms, one of the newer bathrooms over by the cafeteria we're going to convert as well. Great question.
My name is Miles. I'm a senior. I got a question about like taking like a lot of electives as a senior. I wanted to know like if I don't know how to say this. Like I want to understand why we have to take a lot of electives if we have most of our credits to graduate, and like I want to say that if we like had like a shortened day because we have all our credits, we could like have time to like do other things like work and make more money like during the day instead of going to school and having all these electives for not really a reason.
So I think if correct me if I'm wrong, Miles, you're saying if you're a senior, you've got all your credits, you have like 4 classes that you don't really even need to graduate. Why do you have to come to school? Right? If I could get all my classes done by 10 in the morning, can I leave and go get a job? And that's a really fantastic question. It's something that's been discussed for a long time. That used to be, when I was a teacher here, we allowed that. This was, 20 years ago, before you guys were born, assuming you're all under 20 years old. So I'll have to find out the history of that. I don't know the answer to it right now, but I'll have to find the history as to why we don't allow students just to take the classes they need and then be gone. So I believe it's probably a safety issue. We don't want, 200 kids just walking in and out of the building all day long because they don't have classrooms. But I'll have to look into the history behind it, but it's not a bad idea. All right? Yeah.
From the elective point of view, as seniors, you'll have that opportunity to kind of take the courses that you're interested in, courses that may prep you for your college experience. But an idea that I was just thinking was perhaps the student body can come up with an idea for an elective. Classes that you're interested in, that you would like to take and for the staff to teach. So if you're interested in a particular type of arts or science, we can propose that course and give you the electives that you're interested in, and then allow for the senior students to take that course and encourage you to feel comfortable taking it and whatnot. And I know that, excuse me, the sciences, particularly the AP courses, your senior year, and the other college courses prepare you for college, your college experience.
That was a great response, by the way. So I have a question for the first young lady who spoke up. What was your name again, hon? Nylasia. I loved your idea. I thought that was excellent, this idea of a peer counseling group. What grade are you in?
11.
Okay, so you'll be here next year. Maybe since you brought it up, you can sort of be involved in like spearheading the ideas. So I'm just wondering, and you don't have to answer this now, but I'm wondering if you think there is a demand or a desire from students who might be interested in that, and also combining it with a mindfulness practice, because I know we tried putting that into place before COVID, and maybe if we didn't get interrupted with COVID, it could have taken root. So, if you think there's a demand for that, I would also be very happy to be involved with training students in mindfulness.
Which in turn I think could fall piggyback with like that elective concept. It was kind of incorporating mindfulness and a peer leadership program, particularly for students that are seniors. So they're kind of like the peer leaders for our younger student body. We can incorporate the mindfulness and the mental health issues that may come up, and/or the interests of students moving forward in their careers or their interests, to make it more of a kind of like a multicultural experience their senior year, incorporating all types of electives and whatnot. So good idea with the peer. And thank you, by the way, for the input.
Thank you.
Okay, we're actually going to get a question now from our group of students that are remote. So I turn it over to those guys at home.
So the first one is, what will be the future restrictions regarding COVID in the following school year?
I couldn't really hear that. Can you repeat that? Or maybe type it in if you keep getting cut off.
Okay, the first question is, what will be future restrictions regarding COVID in the following school year?
Great question. Right now, we're looking at recommendations from the CDC, but we're following New York State guidelines, which aren't completely aligned. For the remainder of this year, we're still going with the 6-foot rule, but for next year, the Center for Disease Control is recommending 3 feet of social distancing, and that's going to be the rule that we're going with. As of now, you still have to wear masks indoors. In terms of sports and all those other things, those guidelines have not come out yet, but I'm predicting that the restrictions are going to be eased quite a bit next year rather than this year. We're expecting to have a lot more students in school and hopefully 5 days a week. That's my vision.
So I'm Natalie Carbajal. So one of the questions were, can we change the no hoodie rule to a certain extent? Like not fully over your face, but to like, it could sit at the top of your head.
You know, first of all, it's like 90 degrees outside right now. Hopefully no one's wearing a hoodie.
Yeah, I get that, but like in the winter, fall.
So the reason, you know, and if anybody else up here wants to, you know, this comes up always, every school, every year. We have a lot of different reasons for the no hat, no hoodie rule, and the whole identification thing because of the cameras and everything else. That's just one aspect of it, you know. So the big picture, the holistic approach to a dress code is we're trying to prepare you for the world outside of high school. And there's a certain expectation of the way people dress. And if there's a simple rule like no hats or hoods, it should be abided by because it will, you know, better prepare you for, you know, the world after high school. And you might as well get used to it now because, you know, if you're at your job and you want to wear your hood or hat only halfway on, your boss says, no, you don't really have a choice, right? So I think we're pretty reasonable with it, but we're not really going to ease up on that rule, but thanks for the question.
All right, so the next question would be, what form of detention will be suitable for hybrid learning or full quarantine?
For next year or
Yeah.
or even right now? That's a great question. You know, I'm not a fan of detention, for one, because I don't think it deters behavior at all. I don't think there's one student on the planet that has only had detention once and then said, oh, I had detention today. I'm never going to do that again because detention was so bad. So I'm not a big fan of detention to begin with, but that's a really good question as we move into like the new realm of this hybrid model. You know, the whole purpose of discipline is to learn from the behavior. And to be quite frank, we've got to come up with a better model than just making kids stay after school and hope they change their behavior.
You know, I think also, Nylasia talked about the peer mentoring. So I think that is something that can be utilized. Also, just having conversations with our support staff, teachers, because, you know, it has to be a learning experience rather than a disciplinary action. So, you know, I think that should always be the first step. How can we work together to come up with a solution rather than a punitive aspect? Thank you.
Can I stand? Yeah.
He's going to use the mic and he's coming up. He's the valedictorian. He gets to do that.
Thanks. So continue on something Natalie had to say about the hoodie rule and how you were saying how after high school that rule aids us in better adapting to the world outside of high school, et cetera, et cetera. And I feel like we do that very well here. We implemented block scheduling, and that's something that's going to help us in college and so on, in a work environment. It prepares us. However, I feel like high school is a place where we begin to find ourselves and have identity. It's a place where we begin knowing who we are, we self-identify, etc. Additionally, I feel like not being able to wear not completely, as she said, something like laying on your head. I understand your point saying that it's an issue with the cameras, whatever, etc. But I feel like being able to wear something like a hoodie that does not affect the cameras, like you said, would aid us not only in identifying ourselves, but being able to express the Constitution of America, let's say, free speech. I feel like we could better implement that into our school, not just don't wear a hoodie, period. That's it.
Thank you, Alex. So, I think even if you ask the 100 or so faculty and staff members here what their position is on it, you'd probably, get a split vote. I would say half the people are like, whatever, I don't care, and then half the people are going to say, no, they shouldn't be wearing hoods because that's the rule. So, right now I'm making a steadfast stance on like no, and this is why. And as you know, I'm a pretty reasonable person, but I'd certainly be open up for more discussion and how we could somehow work that into our code of conduct, into our clothing code of conduct. And certainly, the discussion could continue. I'm not going to sit here and say, no, never again, absolutely not, because that's not, as you know me, that's not something I would ever do. So, but I'm definitely open for more discussion.
Oh, Alex, that was a really interesting comment. Thank you for speaking on that. By the way, you look very nice today, I just want to say, and it's making me think of this hoodie concept and why it might be a rule. So what I'm about to say is not from me personally, it's from society in general. If someone saw you walking down the street today, they'd say, wow, what a nicely dressed young man, and they'll make these snap judgments. He must be very smart. He must be very responsible. It might not be right or wrong that they do that, but this is what society does. So now if they see you walking down the street and you have a hood on and you're wearing jeans and sneakers as opposed to what you're wearing now, there's a different snap judgment that's made. And like I said, it's not right, but it is what society does. So after you leave high school, people in the workplace, people, your college professors, they're gonna make that snap judgment based on your physical appearance. And whether it's right or not, that's what they're gonna have as the first impression. So, just keep that in mind. And, I have to have the same thing. Like I have a hoop nose piercing, and I'm sure when people see it, they're like, oh, that's weird. But it's, it's my way of expressing myself, but it's just examples of how people are going to look at us and make a decision or tell a story about us without really knowing us.
Okay, so no offense, but there are some people that don't really care how people look at them just because that's their personality. But also I feel like people know that there's a certain dress code for like professionalism and to walk down the street to like a corner store. So who's really gonna walk down to a gas station in a suit as he's wearing? And I'm pretty sure he's wearing the suit because he has something important like this. I think
they're recording for a concert today, actually, Alex.
Okay,
right?
yeah, see, like that's something that's
But he usually looks
professional.
really good too, so.
Yeah, so I just feel like there's a difference. Like you could walk down the street and have a hoodie on, like dress a little like comfortable. That's just how people like to dress. Not everybody likes to dress in suits, which of course, like, yeah, he likes to dress in it. You look in it, but yeah, some people just don't like to do that. So yeah.
So I just want to speak on the concept of the hoodie and hats. I know that it's a rule here, but I do just want to say I understand where you're coming from because the majority, a large oh, it's not on? I'm sorry. I got to talk to it. Oh, I'm sorry. So just speaking about the hoodie, I think correct me if I'm wrong, what you all are saying is that a large percentage of the students here do work. So they're actually dealing with the real world. So you do understand that you're not supposed to be wearing a hoodie when you go to work, but when you're in school, you want to be as comfortable as possible. And by putting the hoodie back somewhat, then perhaps your face can still be seen and so on. Is that what you're saying with the hoodie? Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was clear on it. Okay, thank you.
I was just gonna add on to what she was saying, like how people like don't care about like how they are perceived at school and stuff, because like we only come here for like a couple of hours and stuff, and this is like we shouldn't have to like make like I'm not saying like leave. It's good to leave a good impression on people and like come presentable and everything. But like it's really some people that really just don't care, and like that's them because that's how they feel. Like people, I can't even get my words together. Like people like. How can I?
You've never
say,
had a
like,
problem getting your words together, Nylasia. Come on, you can
I
do
know. It's just like I have a lot to say, and it's like, dang.
it. Think about it. Pass the mic to someone else. Think about it for a minute or two.
Hi, I'm Mia.
Hi,
Mia
Mia.
Sky. I'm a junior. I wanted to say that I believe we should be able to go out for lunch. So I have two suggestions. So one suggestion is like I know at my old school we would, since we have IDs, we should be able to come through the front and scan our IDs so that you could see when we come in and out. So it's not like you're not monitoring us. Another thing is maybe it could just be a senior, what is it called? Like priority. Like you're able to do that. Only because I feel like I was talking with Kaya, she's a senior, and we were saying how if we were to go to these businesses like Blue Teas and 7-Eleven like frequently, they might want to come with us and start to maybe like I don't know sponsor for an event or just to get. We always talk about what's the word?
Sorry, you got a spider in your head.
Sorry. We always talk about coming together with the community. So I feel like that's one way we can do that. Yeah.
So Mia, again, I'm going back to when I taught here a long, long time ago. When I first started here, it was an open campus for 9 through 12, and all students were allowed out for their lunch periods. And then over, because of safety concerns and things like that, over the next couple of years, they phased it out, and then they had seniors only were allowed to go out to lunch. And that was part of their senior privilege. And then it was very similar, safety concerns, students coming in and out of the building, a lot of doors open, and when students realized that seniors were going out, the underclassmen were taking advantage of that situation as well, and it became a safety issue. I don't remember what the impetus was of when we completely shut it down. That was probably around 2006 or so, 2007. Again, you guys were babies at that time, so you're probably like, I was in first grade. I don't care what happened back then, And I get that. I understand that. But times have changed significantly in terms of school safety, campus safety, locked versus unlocked doors, open campus, letting students in and out. But again, it's something that I would never say I'm completely 100% opposed to. It's not something I would ever say is never going to happen again. But it's certainly worthy of another discussion. But right now, district policy is a closed campus. But I could certainly begin to revisit that. And maybe we could put some kind of a steering committee together of students that we could talk about the reasons why an open campus or a senior privilege like that would be, worthy of a revisit in terms of policy, and really just look at every angle of it. Why are people opposed to it? Why don't we have it? And if we could look at the questions of why don't we have it and have good responses to those questions, then we could certainly, open that back up. But again, it's not something that I would ever say, absolutely not, I'm opposed to it. So, thank you.
I just wanted to say I kind of agree. I feel like you said, times have changed. So I feel like in this day and age, we're way more mature. Like I feel like our generation, we've been through so many things that going out to lunch shouldn't really be like a problem. But yeah, that's it.
Okay, we're going to have a question from our group who are remote.
Hi, my name is Stephanie and I'm a junior. But the question that we had is that if it's possible to change the lunchtime, because the first lunch is around 10:15, and that's basically breakfast, as we said. So is it possible to change it?
I hate to say, I keep saying I never say no to anything, but yes, it's possible to change, but not by much. not by much, because there's only so many periods in a day. We've got to give the teachers certain lunch periods as well. They've got to be in the middle of the day and aligned with yours. So they could be, there's some wiggle room, but we know that 10:15, 10:30 is, in the real world, is breakfast time. But we also start at 7, and that's really why the lunch period starts so late. But I feel for you guys. You know, I feel for those who have their breakfast at 10:15 or have their lunch at 10:15, and then you're going 4 more hours before the end of the day before you get to eat. I remember when I was in high school, we're going back 30 years, my lunch period started at 10:17. Why do I remember 30 years ago, 10:17? Because that's how traumatic it was, right? So, and I believe that's still the same time over there. It might be 10:24 now. But there's some wiggle room, but not a whole lot.
How y'all doing?
Hi, Sean.
Are we having like a separate graduation this year, or is like, are we all together?
So right now, we're still following the CDC guidelines, and I did send out the letter to all the senior parents. There's really two options right now for Amityville Memorial High School. There's a little over 200 students. So to have guests, the rules are, if we were to have 500 guests outside, which we would be able to possibly pull off using both bleachers and some chairs, and everybody still has to be 6 feet apart. But if we were to have 500 guests, we would have to require everyone to show proof of vaccination, proof of a negative test within 72 hours, 3 days, or proof of testing positive for COVID and then not showing any more symptoms after X amount of days. I'm not sure. So those 3 things are really the obstacles in having one full ceremony. So what we've opted to do was go with option number 2, because we didn't want to have everybody being vaccinated and everybody showing proof of a negative test. Option number 2 is we could have 200 guests outside, which will allow students to bring 2 family members each, and no one has to have tests. Now, that's the plan right now, to have multiple ceremonies, probably 3. And they're going to take place on Saturday, June 26th. However, the goal, the vision that we all want, right, is one ceremony. One ceremony for the class of 2021 with guests. Right now, it's just not possible because of the guidelines issued by New York State. But they may change. They might change next week. They might change June 1st. And again, our date is June 26th to have multiple ceremonies. But if we get the change and we get the okay to have people without vaccinations, then we're going to do our best to have one ceremony.
Hi, my name is Brianna and I'm a senior. So just following up on the graduation situation for now, obviously we all understand that we're going through tough times. And I just think that considering that last year they had multiple graduations, I know it was more than 3, I think it was 5.
We had 6.
Yeah, 6. Okay. So obviously it's an improvement, 6 to 3, but I still think that considering that the majority of us are minorities and we attend a minority school, graduating high school is probably one of the biggest accomplishments that most of these students are going to achieve in this school. And having the opportunity to have everybody together and have their parents come, they're willing to go get tested. It's not like getting tested costs money. You can go to urgent care, get tested for free with insurance or without. So I think the possibility of being available and having people show proof, I personally don't think it's a problem, because I know that my parents, they're willing to go get tested, and the majority of parents are willing to get tested if that's the notice that needs to be given. Half the people are already vaccinated. So it's like, at the end of the day, if proof is what we need, proof is what will be given. So, you know, if there's a possibility that it can change, just following up, you know?
Yeah, and again, you know, where things can change, I have no problem, you know, maybe surveying the parents of seniors to see if that would be an option for them once again. But again, you know, a hypothetical, let's just say hypothetically, right, we got 225 seniors. What if 50, 60 parents said, I'm not willing to show proof of vaccination, I'm not willing to show proof of a test, or, what happens? We just don't let them come, and they can't let their kids watch their kids graduate.
It's the same way. If you couldn't go into a restaurant because you're not wearing a mask and you're not willing to get tested to watch your kid graduate, that's not a problem that should be considered. I think it's more of like parents are willing to prioritize their children. That's when you become a parent, you're willing to do anything for your child, even if it's the maximum thing. Something like getting tested is become so normalized now. You want to go out to watch a football game, you get tested. You want to go travel out, you get tested, you get vaccinated. So I think high school graduation, they're willing to get tested. And if they don't, then you're saving like 100 parents that are willing to get tested. Meanwhile, there's 50 who didn't. So I'd rather have the 100 parents there than the 50 who aren't.
For graduation, why can't we go to college so it could be bigger and fit more people in it?
Well, we have the space, and the schools that are using colleges or alternate locations are usually because their graduating classes are over 500. So again, we have the space. We are allowed to have 500 guests on our field with the proof of vaccination. But all these schools that are using outside facilities, it's because their graduating classes are so big and they just can't fit. We can fit here.
Now that you said that we can fit here, hi, I'm Genesis. I'm sorry.
Hi, Genesis.
I'm a senior. Would we be able, if we are allowed to have everybody and like, let's say plans do change, would we be able to like set up, I guess, graduation a different way? Because I know every year it's set up towards one side. So it's like weirdly set up.
Yeah.
So I don't know, setting it up a different way, if we could have more people maybe like spread out, maybe chairs around the track or something like that, if that's possible.
Yeah, so we've looked at that, and last year we had a better plan for graduation, and then COVID hit, we had to change everything. And, the bleachers are on one side. That's where everybody's going to have to fit. And then we have the small bleachers on the other. So we're going to try to make it so that there's definitely better visuals for everybody. And if I just want to mention one more thing with graduation, and I'd like to move on to another topic, because the whole purpose of this is to do all things affecting the school. And I'll gladly meet with seniors about graduation another time. One of the other things with graduation, with a 500-person limit, luckily we don't have to, the students don't count, right? So that's a good thing. We don't have to bake them towards a count. But we could only have 500 in the stands. If we have 200 seniors and they bring 2 adults each, now we have 600, and we're still over the cap, and we would probably have to do more than one ceremony anyway. So, if they bring, and then a lot of people are asking if they can bring more guests. So these are all things we still have to explore.
Why would it be 600? If it's 200 students and each student brings 2 people, that's 400.
Well, we have 245 seniors right now listed to graduate.
Okay.
Right? So students are asking to bring 2, and I've got a lot of requests for others. And you can't necessarily let one student to bring more adults than necessary. So just try to keep it within the limits of what we can do. So 245 times 2 would be about 500 guests, right?
It would be 290 and then 10 for staff.
Yeah, but then we have security, staff, and we've got to count all the numbers. So everybody, it's not just students and then the few people on the stage. So unfortunately, we have to count. There's a whole lot of other people that have to be involved in it. But again, guys, we're still willing to explore, and it's not completely off the table.
Okay, we're going to get another question from our remote group. So guys, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Evelyn, and I'm a junior. So I know that we have classes that pertain to like college planning
So that's a great question. We do think there's a lot of electives out there that should be mandatory, but you can't necessarily make those classes mandatory because some students need other classes and there's only so many periods in the day. So if you make those mandatory and then there are other mandatory classes, we have to be able to make sure that students could get them all. And then it becomes an equity issue because if we make it mandatory for all, but some students can't take those classes because they failed the class or they transferred here from somewhere else and they just don't have room in their schedule, it would be an equity issue.
So you said that like we can't make that class mandatory, but that's something that'll help us in college. And personally, I feel like Algebra 2, how's that going to help us in the real life? Like, I have yet to use that. So it's like, yeah, personal finance, you can't make it
We got two
mandatory.
math teachers over here.
Sorry, but yeah, I haven't used that in real life. But yeah, I just feel like personal finance will help people with their taxes, which not many people know how to do, like Angeline had said before. So that would definitely help us in the real world.
So I'm going to let Dr. Bates, discuss the math issue. And again, I agree. I think it's really important, personal finance, and that's why those are electives. And students, our guidance counselors, when they're meeting with students, they should be asking if these are the things that you're interested in. They should be, certainly mentioning those classes to you because they are important. Again, students have the opportunity to take them if they really want to. And regarding Algebra 2, using it, I mean, I used it a couple times today, I think. No, just kidding. Algebra 2 and those higher level math, you might not be using those math applications later on in life, but what those classes do is they're sharpening your critical thinking skills. They're helping you to think outside of the box. They're helping you to think logically. And you might not even realize it. You might just be struggling with a math problem, but you're working out the most important muscle you have, and that's your brain, right? And that's what you're doing with those tough classes. You're working out your muscle. You're working out your brain and making it healthier and healthier. But I'll let Dr. Bates talk about Algebra 2.
Well, actually, as far as personal finance is concerned, I don't feel it should be mandatory, but certainly available to students for those who want to take it because it certainly is needed and that course should definitely, more students should be taking that and be aware of that. As far as the upper level math is concerned, no, and if I wasn't a teacher, I would not be using it in my everyday life either. Math is known as being, I can't think of the word for it right now, but it is the courses where they make the difference. They cut people off in terms of what they're able to do in terms of going to college and pursuing in careers. So Algebra 2 makes you more competitive when you're applying to colleges. They want to see that. So even though, and it definitely, develops critical thinking skills, et cetera, but the personal finance would need to be done in conjunction with Algebra 2 because colleges want to see that you have challenged yourself and they're going to be more likely to accept you into their institution if you have, in fact, taken those courses. And now with COVID, it's more important than ever that you have those types of courses because the standardized testing is now optional. So those are some things to consider in terms of the upper level math.
Thank you, Dr. Bates.
I have another topic to talk about, but I just want to ask Dr. Bates a question. Why don't you believe that personal finance should be mandatory?
Why don't I'm sorry. Sorry. Algebra 2 is not actually mandatory. There are students who have graduated without having successfully completed Algebra 2, so they may be on a different trajectory when they're taking math. So making personal finance mandatory, I feel like with something like that, if you make it mandatory for students, they're going to be more resentful in taking it versus making it available to them. So those who want to learn more about their personal finances will take that course. So you just don't want to make too many things mandatory because then there is that pushback where they're being forced to take something they don't want to take.
Thanks, I understand completely. I just wanted to know. I'm back up. Hello. So cultural celebrations like Hispanic Heritage, Women's History Month, Black History Month, Pride. We have celebrations. We have a Women's Heritage. Yeah, we have a Women's Heritage ceremony. We definitely have a Black History ceremony. We had that last year. It was great. We have an Hispanic Heritage ceremony. Obviously, we couldn't have that this year because of COVID, but I feel like those ceremonies could be more prioritized so we could better become culturally competent to those cultures. And also, I feel like other less represented months, such as Pride Month, for example, could be better represented in the school. Thoughts? Question mark.
And I 100%, Alex, I agree with you 100%. And, being here 2 years now, it seems like it's from historically, and so you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, you've been here longer. It looks like it was more of a top-down approach and was like, okay, we have Black History Month, go throw together an assembly. It's, Hispanic History Month, go throw together an assembly. And these 2 years have been an anomaly because of COVID, right? But moving forward, I think we need to have much more input from the students about how they want to approach it, and not just a one-shot deal, not just one assembly. I certainly encourage the teachers throughout those months to make sure lessons, curriculum is culturally responsive to those things that we're celebrating during that month. Are we doing enough? No, we're not. I'm going to sit here right now and say I'm not doing enough to celebrate all of that stuff. So moving forward, I'd like to put together a committee of students, a steering committee that is just for that. Like, how are we going to celebrate culture here? Is it just going to be one assembly, and some of that work's going to begin this summer, but it'll be an ongoing situation throughout the year as well. But really taking that to the heart, Alex, and it's something that I agree we need to improve drastically.
I just envision perhaps former graduates joining these committees. So many of you sit here today as seniors, so perhaps you can return next school year and support the committee and join our current students in coming up with ideas and visions to promote these celebrations.
Just piggybacking off of what Alex said, especially incorporating Pride, we have had in the past amazing assemblies for Black history and Hispanic heritage, and obviously due to COVID, we understand that it wasn't able to be accomplished this year. But for future reference, I think that as society is progressing and more people are becoming more aware of what it is to be a part of the LGBTQ+ community, I think that Pride should be just the same as a priority as others, because part of that community also makes you a minority. It also makes you feel like, I suppose, then just like the same as a minority would. With that being said, for people who are going into the medicinal career field, as I am, I'm going to be a nurse. I think that—
Congratulations.
Thank you. I think that sexual education should be something that should be prioritized in school, because our health education is not as, I guess, broadened as other schools are. There should be other things that should be touched upon other than drugs and drinking, which is something that's obviously very important and something that could be dangerous into your future. But things such as STDs, teen pregnancy, a majority of that can be prevented, especially coming from a minority school where the percentages are higher than any other school, should be spoken upon, and it should be spoken upon without a lesser approach, without being afraid, because we should be introduced to these things at a young age so we can learn to prevent it in the future. You don't want to just step into something without knowing, especially having many students come in as trans and everything. They should be able to know that we're providing a sexual education for them too, not just for the allies. So yeah.
So if I understand correctly, you're saying our health curriculum isn't as robust or as relevant as it needs to be.
Yeah, I just think that when you were talking about curriculum, I think that a lot of our curriculum should change to progress to today's world. We're basing it too much upon the past. So just like in social studies, learn social studies, but we learn white social studies. We don't learn black social studies with the majority. We've been learning about Martin Luther King since we were in pre-K.
Right.
It's the same lesson over and over. We should be we don't learn anything about Hispanic history. We touch upon Cesar Chavez like once in middle school. So just stuff like that. As the world progresses, we need to progress. Our curriculum needs to progress with it. In health, in social studies, in English, more black writers, more Hispanic writers, more Middle Eastern writers, Asian, everything. To incorporate everything. So just that we are diverse in black and Hispanic, but we need to diverse our, I guess you could say, knowledge too, to know that there's much more that offers out there than just like, you know, I guess you could say like white, predominantly white, like history and curriculum.
Very good, Brianna. I agree. Once again, I agree 100%. And for the record, I am 100% in support of culturally responsive teaching and, you know, utilizing resources towards diversity and equity. I'm 100% for that. One of the things that I've put forth to happen this summer is to have a complete curriculum audit in every subject area, from health to social studies. And what that means is we need to really dig deeply into the resources that we use, the resources that we have, the lessons that are being taught, and let's look at how culturally relevant and responsive this is to our students. And that is being put forth this summer. That's going to be going on very soon. And it's not just the teachers that are involved. We're putting together some equity teams this summer where everybody in the building, just, you know, from teachers, kitchen staff, custodial staff, administrators, and we're looking for students as well to be a part of this when we start doing curriculum audits and to get some student input. What do you want to learn about? What do you want to hear about? What is important to you across the board? So that work has started. As a senior, you might not benefit the fruits of it, but unless you come back here and work with us or teach with us, and some of you may just end up doing that. But we're looking at that, and we absolutely feel that it's critical at this juncture in time as well.
So I'm just going to step back to your first comment about Pride Month. So there is a GSA here, a Gay Straight Alliance, which not a lot of students are a part of. And I was co-facilitator with Miss Whitney this year. I would have loved to have done something for Pride and done something big, but the participation just wasn't there. So, you know, that's just something for the student body to look forward. Like, you know, it's great to want these things, but it's also great to be part of the solutions. So if that's something you guys want to see, whether it's Black history, Hispanic history, you know, even, you know, so doing something celebratory or trying to get it into our curriculums, you guys have to be advocates for yourselves, not just on a Student Unity Day, but all the days.
Even if, well, this is going back to that, even if you're not a part of the community itself, are you allowed to still, like, come out and, you know, participate and...
100%. It is a gay straight alliance. And that's a very archaic term because it's what it was initially called. But it encompasses all things. So we don't even call it a gay straight alliance now. I think it's the gender, I forget what we call it. But it is for everyone. And LGBTQ plus, you know, IA, the whole acronym includes allies. So if you don't identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, asexual, whatever the 500 letters are, you're still welcome to be an ally in the community because that is how the world, you know, that's how everything is spread. I'm not African American and I'll never understand that experience, but I will absolutely be part of whatever celebration is there to try to improve the cultural competency for the population because I'm here for y'all.
So one of the things that we do have to note, right, with the celebrations, with the assemblies, we've got GSA, we've got an Interact Club, we've got a Hispanic Heritage Club, we've got a Black Student Union, we've got Boys to Men. We have all of these clubs that have advisors and who should, you know, you guys should be playing a role with those advisors and putting these assemblies together. Those are the clubs that are supposed to be supporting this, and those are the ones who should really be overseeing those kind of assemblies and those kind of celebrations. So reach out to those advisors.
I think just talking about picking off again off of pride, I think that with pride and having to be advocates as students, for somebody who is in the community, the LGBTQ plus community, I think it also comes with, it's a very hard topic to associate yourself with, especially when you feel as though that you're not being accepted. So just like an opinion or a suggestion from my side, I understand that there are many teachers in our school who are very accepting of the community. I just think that it should be more shown that it's acceptance so that students feel more comfortable to show up into school, to think that if they whoever they love or whoever they are and however they feel, they're accepted wherever they approach into the school. They don't feel like they can just approach one teacher. They should be able to feel like they can approach anybody to talk about their feelings or how they are in the community. So it's just a suggestion that acceptance is a very important thing, especially when you're in that community, because you don't want to feel as though you're alone.
Absolutely, Brianna. And of course, you know, my philosophy, my vision is that every single student in the building has at least one person that they can go to anytime, you know, day or night, anytime they can reach out to. But you're right, everyone needs to feel accepted. And it saddens me as the principal of this building to think that there's a lot of students that do not feel accepted. And I will work every single day to do whatever I can to find that acceptance for students. We're working on some things. We're open to suggestions. We're open to solutions, of course. But yeah, this comes up a lot, and I'm glad you're saying it now that there's a lot of students that do not feel accepted. But it's something that saddens me every single day. And if I, you know, for my evaluation, if my boss is watching right now, you know, what's one thing that I need to improve on, and that's how do I get more students to feel accepted here? So thanks for that.
Hi, my name is Cornesia. I'm just feeding off of what they said and what you guys said. I agree with, like, oh, no student should feel that they're not accepted, and I know that there's teachers that students can go to, but I feel like it also starts with the students. I feel like it should be pushed more that students know how to respect each other and can accept people who are different. So I feel like that should really be pushed now.
Yeah, excellent. Well done, Quanasia. And you know, I want to talk about that and suggestions from you, the student body. You know better than any of us old people up here. Well, I'm old, right? I'll speak for myself. You know better than us, right? How do we get students to accept each other? What can we do? And I think, you know, from this perspective, right, from an educator perspective, is look at the curriculum, look at the lessons. How are we teaching that in the classroom? How are we promoting self-respect, acceptance? But we need answers from you guys as well. And we need your help there, because I agree.
We're going to go to a question from our remote students. So guys, take it away.
Hi, I'm Kenise. I'm a senior.
Hi, Kenise.
Our question was, will sports next year be going back to their like semi-normal schedules, like for their seasons?
I don't know. Does that answer your question? No. Whatever the guidelines say. You know, right now, as is, we know that everything is set up to be the same way it was this year, but I am predicting that sports seasons, and again, prediction, this is just my opinion, prediction, that sports seasons will go back to normal, but there will be some restrictions, like, you know, COVID testing and things like that. But I'm predicting we go back to normal.
Hi, Mia. I'm a junior.
Mia.
So my first thing was, sorry. So I said, I feel like we should have mandatory meetings with our guidance counselor, and that being without, besides like making an appointment. A lot of students need that push to get the help they need from their counselor. I myself have only met with my counselor maybe once or twice, and that was because I moved here last year. I even tutored someone who was afraid to go because he didn't feel comfortable talking to his counselor. I feel like I understand with the pandemic and everything, it's hard for the counselors to get to everybody, but as a counselor, you have a major role in our lives, like when it comes to college, grades, all that. And I feel like we should have maybe some type of activity to like just to get to actually know them and be more comfortable with them, so that I'm not like, oh, I don't want to go, even if I have to look at my GPA, my grades. This was my first time going. I never knew my GPA until maybe last week, because I didn't feel comfortable going because I don't really know my counselor as well as I should. So I feel like it should be mandatory to meet at least once, or maybe like once a month or something like that, just to get used to them.
You make a great point.
I have a
And that's certainly one of our charges with our guidance counselors, that they should be meeting with students more frequently. And every single student should at least, I don't think once a month is possible. Only because each counselor has about 300 students on their caseload, and would be, my math isn't the best, but roughly 10 students a day, which might not seem reasonable, but there are other things, might seem reasonable, but there are other things going on. But we agree. We think that, and of course it saddens me that every student doesn't feel completely comfortable and willing to do it. So yeah, if you need to see a guidance counselor, you go down there, make the appointment, you send an email. If there's no response, then you go down there, and we're here to service you. We serve you. That is our sole purpose. That's it. And if that's not happening, I need to know about that. All right?
Got it. I noticed the time, so I just wanted to bring up this situation. I just wanted to address this Spatola situation. I don't have a question, but I wanted to state that I don't think it's right that students didn't know the situation that happened until maybe a few weeks later, I believe. And I feel like a lot of stuff that occurs in the school that isn't as important as this situation is always brought up. I feel that I also want to say that after the occurrence, like now when I walk through the school, it's like, dang, like what teachers have a certain view on me? Like, am I greeting, because I always greet my teachers every day. So like, is it teachers that really don't feel the same? I feel like we should talk about that way more. I feel like a lot of teachers say, oh, we could talk about the situation, but when we really get to the root and get raw about it, they want us silent. They don't want us to talk. So I feel like that should be way more introduced, and it shouldn't even be about Spatola. It should be just everything.
So we can't discuss
Okay.
personnel.
Got it. That's it.
So I can address some of your concerns, right? First of all, again, it saddens me to feel that we have lost trust as a principal here, as a faculty of almost 90 other people. I'm well aware that there has been a piece of trust lost, because when you're talking to somebody, you might be second guessing. This person's always been nice to me and great to me and a good teacher, but what do you really see when you're looking at me? And we really, really, really have to work to rebuild that trust. I called an emergency faculty meeting a few weeks back and addressed with the faculty of how we can address issues such as the one that you've referenced. Didn't tell people this is what you have to say or not have to say, but prepared people for the very, very, very difficult conversations that people don't feel comfortable having. And you said it, Mia, we say, talk about it, and then you try to talk about it, and then people get silenced because they don't want to, they don't feel comfortable about it, right? And, in the last year, 2 years, there's been a lot of different terms, right? And one of the terms in a book that I read was White Fragility by Beverly D'Angelo. And what that term has come to encompass, what white fragility is the uncomfortableness that white people feel, and I'm speaking as a white person, right? The uncomfortableness that white people feel about talking about racism because of the issue, because we could all sit here and say we're not racist, but are we anti-racist? And that becomes the big question, because those are two very, very different things. So you hit the nail right on the head. It's a very uncomfortable conversation for even people like me, right? It's uncomfortable for me because I don't know the seat that you're in. I will never pretend to understand what it's like to be black or brown, ever. I'll listen, I'll read books, I'll do my best, but I'll never know for sure. So I think you hit it right on the head. Again, we're doing a lot of work this summer to move forth with that training. It takes a tremendous amount of training. You guys feel comfortable about it, but we might not feel so comfortable about it. We have to fix that.
So just to respond to what you said, I completely understand, like, as a Caucasian person, like, you are maybe perceived as like, oh, wow, like, he's racist. But also to respond to something else that you said, that we now lost trust, I feel like that trust has been lost, because I was listening to all this, like, board meetings, and there have people that have been putting complaints years, like, it's been years ago. So for that same, obviously we can't say the name, but for that same teacher to still be in the school after a couple of complaints, that's just crazy to me. Like, it's been ongoing.
I'm sorry, can you just repeat that?
Okay, so at first I said, yeah, I understand, like, people may perceive you as a certain way because of what one person did, but I also have to say, like, the trust has, like, it didn't just, like, the trust
Didn't just
hasn't-
happen that
didn't
one
just
day.
happen now. It's been years ago, because I was on the board meetings, I was listening to it online, and there's people that have been putting complaints in from years ago on that same exact staff member. Obviously, we can't say the name, but yeah, so there have been complaints before, and nothing has been done. And obviously, everyone has their opinion on it. We can't really say the name, but everybody knows. So yeah, I just feel like since nothing was done before, when there have been complaints and parents coming up to the school speaking about the same staff member, like, time after time, it's just like, when is it actually going to change? We want to see that change actually happen.
Thank you. And again, you know, as I stated before, I'm appalled by the things that were said, by the things that were talked about. I'm disheartened by it. It definitely doesn't represent who I am, and I don't think it represents any of the people that are up here. But change is necessary, right? And if the stuff has been accepted and it's been going on, we need to fix that. And again, and I keep referencing what's going, you know, what's starting now, what's going to happen this summer. But we've got to make sure that everybody here, all the teachers, faculty, staff, everybody is in line with our philosophy and our mission. And the people that aren't, it's going to be my job to identify them and weed them out with due process, of course. But if I love you guys, I love you guys, every one of you. And if there are people here not willing to serve you 100% and do what's best, it's my job to know about that and address it. And I will not stop fighting to do that.
And speaking on that, one thing that I would say that we need you guys to do, you know, and we can't speak addressing that directly, but if you have an experience with something like that, so, you know, like people were saying they've had that experience before, try to make sure that you go at the building level so that you can speak. So, for example, if something happens to you, make sure, you know, go speak to a teacher that you feel like you can trust. Go speak to Mr. Playa, making sure that it gets to the person on the building level so that it can be taken care of, you know, quickly, so that it doesn't get to that point.
And I'm not going to get into the whole legality of it also, but if you were listening in, you probably heard the term due process many, 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 many times, which is essentially innocent until proven guilty, right, in the court of law. So everybody's entitled to due process, and if any complaints like this come to me, I have to investigate it, right, fully investigate it. So And what Dr. Bates said is absolutely accurate. You know, if there's something offensive, if there's something that you're seeing, bring it to my attention. And you might say, well,
when it's being shown, because it's crazy how in the past, like she said, there were prior complaints, but now that it's caught on camera, it's something that's now made into a big deal because it's caught on camera, not because you can't trust the students, I guess you could say, like, saying it or complaining about it. With that being said, even though we're seniors and we won't be here anymore, I just hope to see that in the future that things such as like the small summits that you did this year, talking about BLM, continuous other groups and organizations that support Black history, Black lives, Hispanic lives, all that stuff. Things that have to do with that. I hope it continues, not because it's caught on camera, but it's because people actually care about it. Because a lot has changed since then. People would complain, people would say, only because it's caught on camera, only because you have proof now. But there's always been proof. So just to think about that just because it's caught on camera doesn't mean it just started. It's always been happening, and it's never stopped. So.
Well said, Brianna. And that, you know, and that goes with all of the other issues that we've seen in the news, you know, from George Floyd, like what would have happened if that person wasn't there with a cell phone? Would that guy be convicted, right? Now, everybody's got a cell phone, and a lot more things are recorded, and that's why things are being addressed. So, well said, Brianna, and I agree with you 100%.
Hi, my name is Aria. I'm a senior. To piggyback of what she said, see, the problem, as you know, as a Black person, a lot of things like that, no one took it serious, like, because you have the evidence. It's caught on camera, so you know you can share it to news, and you don't want the school to get bad exposure. So now you have to do something about it, and I think it's really upsetting when you have people actually complaining years and years and years, and then what she said, like, now it's recorded, now you have to do something. It shouldn't have to get to that point, because it makes people not want to talk to you. It makes people not want to come out. It makes people just want to tell their parents and let their parents deal with it, because at the end of the day, you're not going to do nothing because it's not caught on camera. It's always, oh, it's the he said, she said. It shouldn't be like that. It should be always nipped in the bud. Like, okay, I had this so-and-so happen to me with whoever. It should be brought, not waiting for a week, not waiting for 2 weeks, 3 days. It should be brought at the attention when it's, you know, when it's told. And if you want students to come up to you and feel comfortable, oh, I can talk to Mr. Plyer, I can talk to so-and-so, it should be, how do I say this? It should be enforced.
Yeah.
It should be enforced heavily. And you should see that, you know, something is taking action. You hear it either on a phone call, you can hear it when you send out messages on a phone call, or your board meetings, all that. It should be taken seriously. Also, another thing, I had two things I wanted to bring up. I remember y'all was talking about the Pride situation, right? And then how a lot of people's not supporting as they should, and it should be taken seriously within the students themselves, because that's where it mostly is. Because I see a lot of teachers supporting and stuff like I'm not going to say I don't ever see that, but I do. And that's a really great thing. But it takes, as a student body, we all should be welcoming, you know? It's always the adults who also got to, you know, we're pointing things that the adults are not doing, but we also got to take accountability on ourselves. Are we doing that? Are we taking that step to make everybody feel comfortable? Because I know there's a lot of individuals in the school right now who feels like they can't come here and be themselves. They all got to put on a different persona so they can be comfortable, and it shouldn't have to be that way. So I had, you know, you'll say if you have a problem, that you should have a solution. My solution was, like, you have assemblies for certain things, you should have a workshop to understand the history of this so-called situation, like this prior situation. Understand the history, because a lot of people think it's just gay and straight, but doesn't understand how, like, the history behind it. You know, how was it hard? How was it progressing? A lot of people don't understand. Everybody has this one concept mind based on what they're raised at home and what they're taught at school. So you can't expect people, well, you should expect because you know the world is now changing, but you shouldn't you should be open-minded to a lot of things. Your brain should be developing and just want to want change. You shouldn't want to hurt somebody because you were raised different. You know, you should want to make a change. You should want to be part of the change. Don't say I want to be part of the change and don't have nothing to say about it or do something about it. There's things you can do. You can have workshops. You can have field trips. You can have a seminar period. You can have a lot of things, but you have to be willing as an individual, as yourself, to do something to make that change, to want to go to the meetings. You can't have a meeting and have clubs and no one shows up. What's the point? No one's showing up. And you're complaining that you don't see it, but are you showing up? Are you inviting people to come? Are you spreading the word out? And those three things you have to do if you want to be part of that change. You can't sit there and expect rainbows and sunshine if you're sitting here doing absolutely nothing. You have to be a part of that change. My second thing with this is my
Well said. Very well said.
Oh, thank you. Also, with Black History Month, last year was my first year here, right? Coming from a whole school, I came from a private school, coming from a whole school that was, dominantly African American people. I was used to seeing different stuff. So when I came here, it was a whole different vibe. You know, I was open-minded. I'm never a person to just be edgy off everything I see. I have to be open-minded, you know? When I got here, when we had our Black History Month program, I felt like it wasn't taken seriously enough. I think it was mediocre. I think it should have been better. And I feel upset because I'm a type of person to join a club. I'm a type of person to be outspoken. I'm a type of person who's gonna make ideas to make it better, you know, because a lot of people can complain, but don't do anything. You can't complain and not do anything. So I think when we have certain events like that, it should be outspoken more, not just on the website, because a lot of people don't look on the website, because the website really needs to be updated, if I'm gonna be honest, okay? You need to have, instead of just posting papers around the wall, no one's looking at papers. We're always looking at our phones and try to get up out of here when it turns 2 o'clock. Nobody is looking for papers. When you have morning announcements, okay, so-and-so is having, we're having this meeting here for this event. A lot of, I think it needs to be organized more with the students. The students have a responsibility. And the staff here needs a responsibility of wanting to, if you want to have a good ceremony, you want to have a good event, you need to take it serious. You can't just put anything up there. I think that a lot what was happening on the Black History Month program, I think nobody was taken serious. It was like a one-day event and everybody just moved on. No one really got anything taken away. If you ask somebody, what did you learn? I don't know. What happened? Oh, this and that, but not really the key points that you should be learning, you're not taking it serious because it wasn't given serious. So that was that. So I think that organized events should be more outspoken.
Let me ask, what is, because I get this all the time, you don't read my emails, you don't listen to the announcements. What is the best way to reach out to students and communicate with students? I mean, someone told me to put it on my Instagram story.
Well, Instagram is
You gotta
good.
follow my Instagram. I'm not in your Snapchat, so I don't know how to do that.
No.
But seriously, and that's something that we've worked on with another committee that we have going on. What is the best way to communicate with students, the best way to communicate with your families so that we can get more students involved? I agree with you. Our Black History celebration last year was my first year here too. I thought it was mediocre, and immediately said, well, what do we need to do to make it better next year? And we have to do a better job, and I want to do a better job, but that's going to require, a community approach to students. We were begging kids to participate in it. We couldn't find eight out of 900 to want to do something. And look, maybe that's because they felt that it's not serious enough around here, or they'll be embarrassed because they're not going to be accepted, or whatever the reasons are. but we need to do better, and we will. We will do better. And it's going to be a great, I hope you participate. Now, are you a senior now?
Yes, I participated last.
Come back and participate in our ceremony in February.
Oh no, I participated last year, of course, because that's something I heavily, believe in. A lot of students think it's uncool, or they think they're gonna get made fun of if they do certain stuff, like joining clubs or being active in things that they need to take care of. It's mostly on the students. You have a voice, right? You have a voice. You're very you don't have much guidelines. You need to get out there. I think it's not just on y'all, but if we are so uncomfortable, we should be comfortable to say something, honestly.
Agreed.
So, yes, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, do we have time to take one more from our
We'll take one more.
Okay, this is going to come from our remote group. So guys, take it away.
So I heard that, well, it came directly from a girl from the varsity team that was on this group with me. She said that some girls had to be cut from the varsity team because the bus seating was limited. I'm not sure if that's true, but that's what had to happen. But I know that other sports teams had a lot of kids on it, and no one got cut. So, yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. I can't answer that question. I don't know who got cut from what team, and if they were, I don't know what the reason was. You wouldn't get cut because there's no room on the bus. You would get cut. Well, you know why you would get cut off a team.
Well, yeah, so that question was the bus seating limiting issue. Is that ever going to change maybe next year?
Yeah, where the guidelines have changed from the Center for Disease Control about how many students we're allowed to have on the bus, and I think it's almost up 35% or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but we can fit more students on the bus.
All right, well, I think that's going to
I just wanted to say one thing, Mr. Grice. You brought up a lot of important issues here, a lot of things that we need to improve on, and I just want to let you guys know that, I'm sorry that some of the things you guys brought up we could have done better, and that I know that I and we are committed to doing better and learning from you guys, because you guys are the voices and you guys will, guide the path for us for improvement. So thank you.
And for the seniors, I want you to call us out on that, right? So give us some time, maybe when you come home, if you're away at school, maybe, Christmas break or something next year, call us out and say, so remember all those things we talked about? What have you done to address those things to keep us on our toes? And I won't be offended, all right? So, and again, I've got to go. We all have to go. I just want to appreciate your time. Your questions were really, really great. It's critical that we listen to what you have to say. And as Dr. Cardone, I apologize for not doing better. I do my best every single day, but I just pray that tomorrow is better than today. And just really, really appreciate your voice and your concerns and your brutal honesty as well, because nothing will get done if we're not honest with each other. So thanks, everyone. To the seniors, I'll see you soon. Good luck. And we'll keep you posted with prom and graduation and everything else. Thank you.
All right, and thank you to the panel for coming out here today and
Thanks to the
listening
panel.
to concerns. We really appreciate it. Guys, you should be commended for asking these questions and being brave to speak on behalf of everybody. Thank you so much for doing this. And remember, it doesn't end today. This is not the end of the conversation. Stick with it. Change takes time, but it happens. Thanks again, guys.